excited because next week is going to be spring break for us. So, yeah. So today, again, welcome everybody to our third Science Under Stars event. Today we have Zarluis, who is a... Mic isn't working. Today we have Zarluis, who is a fifth-year PhD candidate in the integrated biology department. And he is really interested in plants. What is going on? Hello? Sorry about that. Yeah. So Zarluis is very interested in plant chemistry, so he's studying that for his dissertation. But today he won't be talking about plant chemistry. He'll be talking about the rare plants around the world and their unique adaptations. So please welcome Zar.
All right. I just want to start this by thanking you all for coming here today. I know it's quite chilly, maybe not quite, but so you guys are very brave, so I'm going to acknowledge that. And I also would like to thank all the crew behind the scenes. They're all volunteer students that put all this stuff together after TAing, after doing their own research. So thank you all for doing this. This is a great service that us scientists do to the community, because it's important to also communicate the science that we do as well to the general public. So thank you all. So before I start, if this works, okay, great. I'm gonna introduce myself a little bit. Okay, seems like the battery is a bit off. Okay, so I'm actually from Panama. Right there without the microphone. Okay, so I'm actually from Panama. If you don't know where that is, it's this tiny, small country in Central America, here in red. And just for your have an idea, this is where we are. Where this arrow is roughly Austin. We're a very small country. We're known for the Panama Canal, which is a really great thing because we connect the two oceans in this very small stretch of terrain. We're also located in the tropics, so that means that we have a huge species diversity of plants. And if you go right now to Panama, you'll see this. Right now in Panama it's summer, so you have this beautiful display of flowers, which is done by this particular tree called guayacan, where that drops the leaves due to the drought of the summer, and just show all these and start blooming their flowers. And you get this beautiful landscape of just yellow things that are just big trees, which is a beautiful thing to see. We have also a huge... This way?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's okay. I'm just gonna stay put. Okay, so like a plan, as you will see in the talk. We also have a huge diversity of plants, of animals. Like you can see here, we have jaguars, we have a toucan, we have a golden frog, we have cute little things like the sloth, and we have the harpy eagle. So I have to be honest with y'all. When I was starting the career of biology back in Panama, I didn't know that you can study plants and have fun like as a career. Even though I took classes of biology in high school and all that, but everything changed when one friend from university, when I was starting my career, she organized for some random reason to go to this beautiful island in Panama that was basically made because of the Panama Canal when it was flooded, and it's called the Barrio Colorado Island. And actually, this place holds a very dear and very important role in the study of ecology, because there's been more than 100 years of study in this particular island that occurs right in the middle of the Panama Canal. So it's a very fascinating place. And so you see things like this, as you can see here, just beautiful, beautiful. So when I was starting, I just was walking to this trees and just being fascinated by it. And I actually managed to see this. This used to be called a big tree. This used to hold a record of one of the biggest trees with width. As you can see here, a little bit of the scale here. And so I actually got to see it. This is me back when I was starting, just at the very bottom of the tree. This tree unfortunately was struck by lightning, so it died in 2018 or something like that. But it was after this trip I was blown away by plants, and I was just feel so passionate about plants, and I just immediately led me to decide that I wanted to study plants for the rest of my career. And so that led me to go to the University of Panama to study plants, and I got to do some fun things like I used to do when I was a child, like climbing trees to collect plants and to collect leaves. And so this, as you see here, is not like trash, is a bunch of plants that we collected. And I was very fortunate to travel all around remote places in Panama to collect different plants around in different ecosystems. So that was a fascinating thing to do. And so this passion that led me to actually got a scholarship by the government of Panama, and I did a master at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, when I also got to study more about plants and learn more about the plant community actually in Panama. And so now, as Tianji said, I'm doing a PhD here at UT, and so I'm now using chemistry, the plants, the chemistry of the leaf tissues, to sort of understand different questions about the community and how plants interact with each other, and so on. So unfortunately today I'm not going to talk about that, but if you have questions about that, I'm happy to talk about. I also studied the walnut species and all the pecan plant families, so I'm happy to answer any questions about that. So going back to the main point of the talk about rare plants around the world. So before I start, I have just a very small question for you all. Just have like a couple of 5 seconds or something. If you can think about what are some differences between animals and plants. Do I have any volunteers?
Animals poop.
Animals poop? Okay, that's a good one, interesting one. Okay.
Plants have chlorophyll.
Okay, that's really good. Okay, thank you. That is really good. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. That's good. That's good. I'm glad that you guys are still alive and not dead because of the cold. So that's great. Okay. So plants are autotrophic and animals are heterotrophic, which means that plants are able to produce their nutrients by photosynthesis using the sunlight. And animals not. Animals need to chase their prey in order to get nutrients from out of them. The other one is, as somebody said here, they have chlorophyll, which confers the plant this very known green tissue that all the plants are well known for because they're green. So it's because of this pigment chlorophyll that plants possess. And animals do not have pigments. They do have pigments, but it's different type, but they're not green. And the other one is so the one is that they keep growing through life. The plants, they can grow, especially if they're big trees, they can grow on and on and on. Whereas animals, they are grown, they're defined by their physiology and they can grow to a certain extent. Plants also respond slowly to external stimuli, meaning that I guess for animals that would be quicker. The animals, they respond quickly to external stimuli. For example, if you take this cat, or if you have cats or dogs in the house, if they're exposed to the sun for a certain time, they realize quickly that they're getting overheated, and so they move to the shade. The same as humans as well. Whereas plants, they'll move, as you will see in this talk, but they do it slowly. And so, yes, I also got ahead of myself, but so one important thing that I think is really interesting that maybe you don't think too much about is that plants, they do not move. When they have the seeds and the seeds sprout, they remain fixed and they cannot move forever. Whereas animals, they can move freely. For instance, jaguars, they can move up more than 100 kilometers per day. So, so that is very interesting because this is one of the key things that we're going to talk about today. And And so before we start talking about what makes a plant rare or unusual, we have to think about what is a normal plant or what does that look like. Okay, so generally plants have roots, and those are like the anchor of the plant, and they also, that allows them to acquire nutrients, and that's the way that they also interact with the soil microbial community too. They also have stems, and that is the part in between the above ground and the below ground, and this helps the plant to sort of like move nutrients from one side to the other one. And the upper part of the plant, which is contained by branches and leaves, and so this is mainly the upper part of the plant, and leaves right here are the key part because this is where leaves do the photosynthesis that I was talking about, where they use their sunlight to produce nutrients. And also you have flowers and fruit. Usually they're like they represent smaller. Right, I did have to move. They usually smaller compared to the whole body of the plant. And so another interesting thing about plants is that they have very few requirements to live. And so they are mainly need water. They also need sunlight, and they also need the soil or the nutrients of the soil. So, but one key thing is that these three elements that exist in the world, they're not distributed equally across the globe. They come in different flavors. And so imagine if they all come in the same way, then everything would be perhaps equal and there was no diversity. So that's why we love diversity, right? So that led to, through like many years of a geological evolution and different like things that happened on Earth a long time ago, and also the shape of the air and the fact that it moves, that had led to these different places across the globe that we call ecosystems. And so here you have, like in different amounts of water, soil nutrients, and sunlight, you have all these places. Like for instance, you have, like the tundra, or like in the polar side where you have ice and it's very cold. And then you have, for instance, the tropics, where it's like very wet, lots of mosquitoes and things like that. And also you have the desert, where it's like very warm and dry. But one cool thing about plants is that plants have managed, throughout many years of evolution or adaptation, they have managed to conquer almost all of these ecosystems. So plants can able to exist in almost all of these ecosystems, which makes plants really, really cool, at least to me. And so this is what I'm going to talk about. So how these plants respond to all of these different type of ecosystems, and how that stress or that pressure has led the plants to create these all adaptations that have led them to survive and persist in these harsh, sometimes harsh areas. Okay, so this is the outline for today. We're going to talk about a little bit about ancient plants, extreme environment specialists, masters of reproduction and pollinator tricks, plants that do everything to survive in an ecosystem, and plants that actually are able to move. And this is a really fun one. Okay, so let's start with ancient plants. And so, okay, clicker. Okay, so I want you to think just briefly, how old are you? You don't have to say it. How old are you, and how old do you think a plant can be? Okay, so how old do you think a plant can be? Okay? 2,000, okay, that's good. 5,000, okay. 15,000, wow, okay. Yeah, I like it. Thank you very much for participating. Okay, so let's travel a little bit to the Jurassic period, and that is almost roughly 2,000 million years ago. And so who here likes dinosaurs? Okay, now who likes plants? Okay, roughly equal. That's really nice. I was actually expecting less people liking plants because that's usually how it goes. But I'm glad that it's equal this time. So that's great. Thank you. And so one thing that you notice here is that, in these, even though in these like times of dinosaurs, plants exist during this time. And that is really cool because to this day, some of these plants actually still exist in our current world. And so some of these plants are actually, as you can see here in this little picture, hopefully you can see a little bit. So this actually looks really, really similar to this. So this is an example of an ancient plant called, it's called monkey puzzle. Somebody put it that common name because it looked at the branches and I thought, oh, a monkey can actually puzzle itself here. So that's what it got all this because this has these funny branches. And so this plant can live up to like 2,000 years. So that's why they're called ancient plants. And so there are some relatives of this plant that exists to this day, as you can see here. And this one can be found here in Chile and Argentina. Another great example is the samias. And I think these are like perhaps more known for some people that like gardening and plants, because some of them you can actually buy them in grocery stores. And so this is Samia furfurea, and so this, as you can see here, it grows. It used to be also with dinosaurs around that Jurassic period, and so it's called Carver palm, but it's actually not a palm. It's more related to pines, and so you can see here it produces the pine cone. And so this plant can be found in all Central America. But this plant only can live from 100 to 50 years. However, this plant actually, studies have found that it's pretty much looked the same way that it was almost 2,000 million years ago. So it's considered a true ancient plant. So that's pretty neat that we're surrounded by plants that used to also see like dinosaurs. That is pretty awesome. So let's talk about extreme environment specialist. Quick question. So what were the three main requirements for a plant?
Water,
Sunlight,
Okay.
soil.
Yes, exactly. You got it. You guys are really good students. Awesome. Yes, so water, sunlight, and soil. And so, as I said before, some of these elements do not occur in the same amounts throughout the world. And so, so some of them can be actually streams. So for instance, if you look at water, too much water can cause floodings, and too little can increase drought. You also have your seawater and you have fresh water, and this water can be in different states. They can be liquid or frozen, as we know as ice. Sunlight as well. Too much sun could also lead to a drought, and too little can be too much shade for the plant. And then you also have different amounts of sunlight. So for instance, in the tropic, as in Panama where I'm from, you got only 2 seasons. You have only summer and you also got winter. So you got like half of the day roughly sunlight and the other half rain. But compared to like partial amounts of sunlight where you get like here in the US where you have 4 seasons and you get roughly 2/4 of the season sunlight. And the other one is soil nutrients. So soil, like low nitrogen, low phosphorus, too much aluminum or iron can also be toxic to plants. So these two, like nitrogen and phosphorus, are really important for plants. So they're considered key elements. But all of this to say is that the extremes of all of these elements can lead to, can affect a plant. So a plant has to be creative to overcome this challenge and to persist through time. And so we're going to see some great examples of this. And so some of these are really interesting and really fun to see. And so the first example that I have for you, it's called Welwitschia mirabilis. And this looks like a pile of rubbish, but it's actually very much alive. And in fact, this plant is also considered a fossil plant because it can live more than 2,000 years. And so what it does is it does this really interesting thing that it produces only 2 permanent leaves, and then they grow and they split and they fray over centuries, and they just carry on growing. And so this plant can be found in the deserts of Namibia and Angola. And so the way that it survives or can withstand these droughts is by like having these very big tap roots that can reach the water beneath the soil, and it also is able to capture water in the fog of the earth. And so this actually is a photo in a greenhouse garden at the Urbana-Champaign. When I saw this plant, I almost cried because I've always heard about this plant before, but I never thought I would be able to see it with my own eyes. So that was a shocker for me. That was really fun to see. And so another great example of come on, clicker. Okay. Oh. Okay, so another great example of some adaptations that plants have been able to produce because of these extreme weathers is this industry, as you can see here, is Adansonia digitata, or known as baobab. And so, as you can see here, what this tree does is that instead of like having tap roots or getting water from their fog, what it does is it's able to accumulate water in their stems, in their trunk, and is able to accumulate more than 1,200 liters of water. And so that allows this plant to be able to withstand months of no rain or no water, and is able to be happily alive growing. And so this tree, it's mostly seen in Africa, and it's also considered the tree of life of Africa. It holds some religion importance as well. And it's people also, since the trunk is so big, as you can see here, some people use it to as a hub of socialize and things like that. So it's a really, really interesting tree as well. It's another way to adapt to these extreme weathers. Another great example that you can find here in Texas, and if you have come here before, you have heard of this great talk from our very own Alison Hutt. And this is a great example. It's called the resurrection plant. And so if you don't know this plant can be found in Texas. It really likes the rock and poor soils as well. But what it does is really impressive. So it can survive in an air-dried state for months. When water becomes available, it gathers this water and rapidly resumes normal physiological activities, making it the resurrection plant, as you can see here. So here you can see, you think, oh, that is dead, but it's actually pretty much alive. And so when you add water, you get this very nice green tissue. So this is some people are actually studying these extreme or rare adaptations that not very common plants have, and because they're fascinating.
What does it do to be able to survive the drought? What's the adaptation?
All right, can I answer that question at the end? Okay, sorry. Okay, so another great example is some plants are able to be fire resistant. And so one great example is this sequoia or giant redwood tree that occurs in California. If you haven't seen it, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating forest. As you can see here, it's also, as a matter of fact, it's also considered an ancient plant because it can live like thousands of years as well. And so this is an interesting plant because their bark, actually, it's very spongy and it's also fire resistant. And also their cones or the seeds or the babies are able to, they develop this adaptation that they really need the fire and the heat to be able to sprout and to grow. And so not so many plants can be like this, like fire resistant, which I think it's a fascinating, it makes these plants like really cool, and also how big they can be. Okay, another great, really cool example, and perhaps you don't know this, but there's these plants that are able to flower in the water, and that is a very unusual thing to do for a plant. This is not to be confused with seaweed, which is an algae. These are actually true plants that produce flowers. So can you spot the flower in these pictures? Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. So it's, if the clicker allows me to, so that's actually the flowers. They're not your typical flowers. They're kind of like showy. They're more like a grass type of flower. But how cool is that you can produce flowers under the water? That is very fascinating, and I don't like, not so many plants can do that. And so this plant can be found all over the coast and the coast of North America too. Okay, so this one is an extreme adaptation to nutrient-poor soils. And so this one actually was recently published like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's by a tree fern, as you can see here. And this is really cool. So the way that this fern actually did this thing is that, so you can see these are the leaves. And so once the leaves start dying, they become this part of the structure and they reach the soil. And so instead of like decomposing as usually it does when leaf litter goes into the soil, what it does is that it actually changes the leaf to become a root. And so this is what you can see here. And scientists discovered this because when they dig up these structures from the soil, it actually had roots. So this plant is able to change their anatomy from a leaf to a root in order to because this plant occurs in very poor soils. So we think that what is doing is actually trying to increase the surface area in the soil to be able to acquire other nutrients from the soil. So not so many plants can do this, which make this plant a very rare plant too. And this is also only found in Panama, actually. So it's a very recent study that was being published. And okay, so plants, as I said, like plants have done these clever strategies that have evolved through time for survival. And so some of these, just to recapitulate, so some great examples of this is, for instance, like what I just mentioned about water conservation, that they do these things to, in this drought, very extreme hot conditions. Some plants are also being able to develop friendly relationships in the soil, where they sort of like hire microbial communities in the soil to help them like acquire nutrients in the soil. And also some of them have been able to trick other plants or interact with other animals, and doing that by shaping the flowers. So this is what we're going to talk about right now. Okay. Okay, so this is just changing a topic here now, masters of reproduction and pollinators. So you can see this, these orchids actually that are able to use mimicry, which is basically sort of like trick insects to sort of like use them to pollinate their plants or to visit their flowers. And so what animal do you think these flowers look like? You can say it out loud. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so bees. Yeah, a bee. And also wasps too. And so, oops. Okay, so what has happened is that the flower have developed this through the years, has able to like shape their flower to mimic a female bee or a female wasp, and is able to generate those chemicals in the flower to attract the male bee or wasp to visit their flower. And doing so, the male bee or the male wasp visit the flower and then go visit all other the flowers around, and so that the insect is able to pollinate the other flowers and visit other flowers too. There are also some other really cool flowers. And what do you think these look like? Monkeys, right? But they're not being pollinated by monkeys. But they do look like monkeys. So these are also orchids. They look like monkeys to you, but they actually, in this case, what they use is the sense of smell to attract flies. But they do look like monkeys. You're absolutely right. Another great example as well is, so, you know, like right now we're in spring and a lot of plants are actually like producing flowers, and those smell really delicious, really yummy. But there are actually some plants that do the opposite. So in this case, these are two great examples of plants that actually stink. They smell really, really bad. Actually, in fact, this one was, I took this, actually, I also got to see this plant in the Missouri Botanical Garden, and I can tell you it stinks. But it's fascinating. Like you see this is a great example. So this is called Titan arum, and this is a great example where the flower is almost bigger. It's bigger than the actual plant itself. So this plant holds the record for the biggest inflorescence. It can be like up to 1 meter tall, as you can see here. And it's only found in Sumatra and Indonesia. And so what these plants attract is flies because they smell like rotten flesh. This one also is a great example, Rafflesia arnoldi. It's called the corpse flower, and it also holds one of the records of the widest flower. It could be up to 1 meter wide. And this one is actually really interesting because if you go to the forest of Sumatra or Borneo, you can actually not spot this plant very easily because it's also a parasite. So we're going to talk about parasites later on in the talk, but basically the whole life of this plant is living inside a particular liana that occurs also in this forest in Sumatra and Borneo. And so it only comes out when it's about to bloom. So it's really hard to see only when it's smelly and you can see the actual flower. Okay, so there are some plants as well that are really rare and they're very interesting because they do whatever it takes to survive in a particular ecosystem. So we're gonna see some examples of this. And so if I ask you, if you remember, how does a normal plant eat?
Roots.
Okay, roots, that's great, yep. So yeah, so they use mainly the roots to acquire nutrients from the soil, and also they use their leaves, right? Because, and the green leaves, because that's how they do photosynthesis and they acquire nutrients as well using the sunlight. And so, what if I tell you that there are plants that do not produce roots, and sometimes they do not produce leaves, as you will see later in the talk. And so, this is a great example. You may be familiar with this plant. It's called mistletoe. And so it's very common to be seen in Christmas because there's this really cute tradition. But yeah, so anyway, so this is mistletoe. And so you can actually see it right now in the neighborhood where you lived around because mostly all of the trees have dropped their leaves. And sometimes people see this and they think, oh, that's the leaf of the tree, but it's actually the mistletoe. And so what this plant does is that it doesn't have roots. So it has these structures called haustoria that sort of like attach themselves to a host tree, and they sort of like tap into their and is able to do photosynthesis. It has leaves, it has green leaves, and this is called a semi-parasite. It still can do photosynthesis, but it uses other plants to steal their water. And there's also the flowers of this plant are actually not super like very showy, but there are some other species that do the same thing, but the flowers are actually very, very cute. And some people confuse them with the actual these being the flower of the tree. This was actually taken in Mexico, so it's a plant from Mexico. Another great example of parasite. Come on. Okay, there you go. Another great example is it's related to so it's called dodder, and so as you do photosynthesis entirely on so the way that these survive is that they They have these structures in the soil, and they tap into like the microbial community in the soil that is also attached to big trees around. And so this is a great example. This was taken in California as well. It's called the snow plant. And I mean, if you look carefully, they actually produce flowers. You can see here, this one is called Balanophora, and it's called fungus root, but it's actually a plant, it's not a fungus. And you can see here that these white things, these things that are coming out, these are actually flowers. So that's pretty neat of plants. Another great example as well is that it's the predatory plant. So perhaps you're more familiar with these ones, because these ones you can also find around in the US, and you can also purchase them in HEB, I think. And so these are great examples because these plants do not have roots. And so the way that they have overcome, they don't exist in poor soils. So the way that they have overcome this is that they have created these structures around to sort of like catch traps, to trap other insects and sometimes birds. And once the plant feels that there's something there, it closes it or it traps it, and then it generates these enzymes that are able to decompose the prey, and then they acquire their nutrients through this way. And these are phenomenal examples as well of rare plants that are around. And okay, right. Another great example too, it's the structural hijackers. And so this is a great example that is called strangle figs. And so the way that this work is that, the way that is work is that, so let's say that, so this plant actually grows, so usually plants grow from the soil surface, and then they start growing downwards, right, producing their roots. And so the way that this plant does it is that, let's say that a bird ate the seed of this plant, and then it pooped it on top of a tree. And so when it landed in the tree, it started growing, and it started like putting the roots downward, but towards the soil. And so through time, here is where the host tree was, all fully taken over. This strangle fig, but not everything is so bad. In fact, this particular species, the strangle figs, are actually really important in systems because they're considered a keystone species. And the main reason for that is that this is one of the very few plant trees that is able to produce fruits every year, especially during summer, and it allows other animals to eat their fruit. So this is actually a very important tree in tropical forests, particularly because it provides food yearly. So not everything is so bad. One thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the talk was that plants do not move. I lied. I'm kidding. So yeah, but generally compared to animals. And so, but however, there are some really great examples that show that plants can actually move. And this has been very well documented for some species. So for instance, this shy plant, that actually this species occurs in Texas. Have you seen this?
Yes.
Have you experienced with this as a kid? Yeah, exactly. That's phenomenal. Okay, great. So the way that this works basically is that when this plant has some sort of sensors in the terminal leaves, and so the cells inside the tissue are like sort of like swollen, and this is because they contain water inside, which give that like natural shape of an expanded leaf. But when the plant feels that it's been touched, what is happening is that the receptors send a message to the cells, and the cells and around the cells there's like elements like sodium and potassium that are released, and the water from the cell starts to come out, and the cells around start shrinking. And so that's what you see here then, when you're basically seeing a bunch of cells inside that have shrinked because of that touch in the leaves. And so the leaf is not dead, the plant is not dead, it's just a mechanism of defense. And that's what we think it's happening. It's that the plant does this so that it can defend themselves from predators like insects or herbivores. Another great, really cool example, I think this is probably one of my favorites, is the walking palm. Have you ever heard of this before? Okay, very few, that's good. So this is called exoriza, and palms are really diverse in tropical forest. And so this is a great example because this is not like your typical palm. So your palms usually produce roots and they're very close to the surface of the soil. But as you can see here, these palms produce this type of roots that are called stilt plant roots. And so basically the roots come all over above from the stem, and they're sort of like in an angle. And so one of the things that we think is they provide some support to the palm, but also it actually allows the plant to move in the forest. And so you can see it here. And so this is just a depiction of what I'm talking about. So this is the palm with the stilt root, and then let's say that a tree fell on top of it. So this is the same top of it, and now the palm is sort of in this position that is very close to the soil, and it's sort of like like being affected by it. But because this palm, this type of roots, what happens is that through time, the plant is able to generate more roots, like above this where the other tree fell, and is able to move. Oh, what did I do? Okay. And so there is able to move, as you can see here, and through time is able to be fully erect, as you can see here. So it's actually managed to move around. And so there's a lot of talk about why this plant do this thing. I mean, there's many hypotheses. One being the fact that it provides extra support in the soil, and it also increases the surface area in the soil, so it allows it to get more nutrients from the soil, and also as I said, because it moved, it's able to go above things in the forest or big debris in the forest to sort of be able to move. Another also hypothesis is that it moves because it needs the sun, because some of these plants are able to recognize where there is the sun and it moves towards that direction too. All right, and my last example is called this tumbleweed. And so this plant does something really, really interesting. And so have you ever seen a Wild West movie? Or cowgirl movie? Yeah, great. Okay, so there's always these scenes in these movies that there's a quiet moment where there's I don't know, something is about to happen, and all of a sudden there's something with the wind moving around, and so that you see move around is this plant called tumbleweed. It's not trash or anything. It's actually a plant, and so it's a very clever plant. So this plant, unfortunately, is invasive or is not native from the U.S. It was introduced in 1870s. So this plant, so the way that this plant does it is that it produces flowers, right? And so then it produces seeds. It produces thousands and thousands of seeds, and then the plant, when it recognizes that it produces enough seeds, the main stem start rid, and it start drying. The plant start drying, and so it will separate the whole plant. The whole entire plant separates from the roots and start tumbling around. And so in doing that, the whole plant moves and also disperses their seeds. And so that's what you see here around doing the tumble. And so it's a great mechanism, a very effective mechanism to sort of disperse your seed around everywhere. And it could go miles and miles and miles. And so we're reaching the conclusion of this talk, but so some take-home message. So rare plants evolve rare solutions. So their unusual traits are finely tuned responses to unique environments. Extreme habitats drive extreme innovations. Nutrient-poor soils, lack of water, fire-proof regions all push the plant towards unique adaptations. And so rare adaptations for this talk meant survival strategies. Mimicry, parasitism, resurrection are all solutions that plants have developed through years of evolution to ecological pressures or to different interactions between other organisms. Rare species often shape entire ecosystems. Some species act as a keystones, as we saw, like the fig strangle tree, or habitats providing resources to other species. And so why does this matter? Why do we care about this? Some rare plants preserve unique ancient evolutionary history, as we saw from the fossil plants that are still able to persist around even through Jurassic time. And losing these species means erasing millions of years of a biological innovation. Understanding adaptations guide us conservation. Knowing why plants evolve and a rare adaptation help us to protect specific habitats these plants depend on. And lastly, learning about these species can teach us resilience. And this is, different difficult times, like plants, we have to adapt, we have to persist. And so these can teach us a lot about resilience through difficult times too. Oh. And with that, thank you very much. All right. Okay. All right. I forgot. I cannot move.
Any questions? Me too.
Let's talk more about the actual how does that help provide an environment?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the plant that like have leaves that like separate leaves. I would say that I would say perhaps I don't know much about this, but basically